Well, welcome everyone. We're going to wait a minute or two more as folks are entering the Zoom room that we can join in together. We have over 100 folks that have registered for today's webinar, so we're really excited to have you here. So, grab a glass of water, your sandwich, whatever, as we have our virtual picnic webinar here to learn from some great speakers today that we look forward to uh, providing a lot of resources and answering your questions. We are recording this webinar, so as well as the chat will be recorded. So if you do put some questions in there and you don't get them answered, we will follow up and you will get a copy of the recording after this webinar that you'll be able to share with your friends and colleagues and refer back to for additional information. So we'll wait just another minute or two as folks are coming in. So thank you so much for coming and taking the time out of your day to spend this time with us. As you're coming in, I'll do a little bit of welcome and some instructions. So we just want to welcome everyone to this, our first webinar in partnership with the 3rd District California PTA and Friends of Sacramento Arts. My name is Allison Cagley, and I'm the founding executive director of Friends of Sacramento Arts. And we're a regional nonprofit organization dedicated to the mission of ensuring equitable access to comprehensive arts education. Our vision is arts every day for every child in every school. Before we get started with our program, I would like to provide our land acknowledgement. So next slide, please, Denise. To the original people of this land, the Nisenan people, the Southern Maidu Valley and Plains Miwok, Patwin Witten peoples, and the people of Wilton Rancheria, Sacramento's only federally recognized tribe. May we acknowledge and honor the Native people who came before us and still walk beside us today on these ancestral lands by choosing to gather together today in the active practice of acknowledgement and appreciation for Sacramento's Indigenous people's history, contribution, and lives. Thank you so much. So as I'm continuing to talk, please introduce yourself in the chat room, include your name, your school district or the organization that you represent, and where you are zooming in from, what city or region you are in. And as I mentioned, please post your questions in the chat room. We will address these during the webinar as well as to provide contact info for future questions. We won't be having an open mic for chat room during this workshop as we have a very robust program. Also, just wanted to give a little bit of background about myself. Next slide, Denise. So, so the little program on the left is my 4th grade Winnie the Pooh musical where I started in theater. And that was at a time when arts and music and theater were a part of a regular school day. And the picture there is a black and white photo of a group of choir members because choir was my jam in junior high and high school. But sadly, today, only 1 in 5 school children in California receive any types of art at their school, despite the fact that both academic success and social emotional health are greatly improved when music and art is a part of a child's education. We are all here today because we're concerned about teaching the whole child and want to make an impact in our school. Next slide. In 2019, California adopted the Arts Framework and Arts Standard. The team that created these include today's speaker, Letty Krause of the California County Superintendents Association, to incorporate the arts at every grade level. Here is part of the intro from Superintendent of Public Instruction, California Department of Education's Tony Thurmond, and Dr. Linda Darling Hammond, President, California State Board of Education. Creativity and appreciation for the arts for all students to have a well-rounded education that exposes them to new ideas and perspectives. Arts education boosts school attendance, academic achievement, and college attendance rates, improves school climate, and promotes higher self-esteem and social emotional development. As students develop artistic literacy, the ultimate goal of arts learning for California students, they develop transferable skills that enhance their personal, academic, and professional endeavors. Every child should have equitable access to high quality, standards-based arts education to thrive and participate in modern society. The California art standards reflect that fundamental belief. The standards are conceptual and support inclusive arts learning experiences to meet the needs of students with a wide range of abilities. We encourage educators to utilize the art standards to update curriculum, instruction, and assessment, which are the foundation of quality arts learning in schools. And local education agencies are urged to ensure access to arts learning for each and every student in California. Next slide, please, Denise. In November 2022, Proposition 28, the Arts and Music in Schools Initiative, was approved by over 65% of California voters. This is the first time in the last 40 years that a significant priority, and more importantly, financial backing for arts education has been put forth. This is historic, and we do not want to squander this opportunity to be change agents for our children's education. We want to ensure quantifiable changes in our schools, providing music, theater, dance, fine and digital and media arts to every TK through 12th grade student. Each of us can play a role in realizing this dream, this vision for our school children. Today, you will hear from a great lineup of speakers who are change agents statewide and locally. You will come away today with not only important information and examples of inspiring partnerships and dedication, but also tools you can use at your schools and at your school districts to build collaborative partnerships focused on fully implementing the Prop 28 funds available to every public and charter school in California. And now I'm honored to introduce Casey Baker of California PTA. Take it away, Casey.
Good afternoon. My name is Casey Becker, and I'm the Director of Development and Programs at California State PTA, whose mission is to positively impact the lives of all children and families as advocates for education, including the arts, across our state. Thank you for joining us today to learn about the current status of Prop 28, how you can implement available funding at your school and keep the arts alive by asking you a few key questions, building relationships, and together creating a plan. I believe it is our shared role as caregivers and community members to stay loud for the arts at any level and insist students do not miss out on arts and music in our schools. Only good things can come from leaning in and starting these important conversations, even if it starts with a quick email or happens during drop-off or pickup. We all play a part in closing the gap for arts education across our Golden State. One plan, one school, one district, and one win at a time. California State PTA has been a longtime proponent of arts education with a stance that visual and performing arts should be a fundamental part of a balanced curriculum for all students. We adopted a written resolution in support of the arts during funding shortages and have remained committed to the cause through the passage of Prop 28 and in helping our PTA schools and others navigate next steps. Next slide, please. National PTA also believes that all art disciplines are central to learning and the development of students. As such, we have offered our Reflections Art program since 1969 for all grade levels to reflect on an annual theme, create and submit a work of art in any of 6 disciplines, and annually celebrate awardees at the state and national level through a showcase of exhibitions and prizes. I invite you to consider participating in this year's PTA reflection theme of Accepting Imperfection. and to take advantage of any existing programs like ours designed to make arts accessible to students. A few are on this webinar today. California State PTA has proudly partnered with many to bring public awareness about the importance of art and music in our schools. We hope to be a resource for any individual with a passion to revive arts education within our state. I implore you to find a way to become involved. You do not have to be an expert or an artist to make a difference. You just need to be willing to raise your hand and speak up on behalf of students to bring back creativity into every classroom. Now I'll hand it back to Allison.
Thank you so much, Casey. I'm a proud past PTA president of my local elementary school, so we're so glad to partner with you. I'd now like to introduce Letty Krause, Director of California County Superintendent Statewide Arts Initiative. She's been a leader on a local and statewide level in pushing forward Prop 28 and arts literacy. Take it away, Letty.
Thanks, Allison. I'm really happy to be here today with all of you and sort of give you a statewide perspective and a little bit of a snapshot about implementation. Next slide, please. Sometimes people say, well, what do county offices of education do? They're sort of invisible in some ways, but I just wanted to start with this because we do have a statewide network of county offices that support school districts and serve as a liaison with the state, California Department of Education. And so one of the things that the Arts Initiative does is we have an arts lead in most counties, and we network together, and together we help be a liaison for Prop 28 for arts education. We provide professional learning, we convene people, and we've been right there on the front lines working on implementation since the day after the voters passed Prop 28. So this is sort of where I'm coming from with my perspective. Next slide, please. And just to give you an idea of what that means, so we represent the largest county by population, which is Los Angeles, largest county in the nation, that is. Largest county in the nation by square miles, which is San Bernardino. We represent a lot of small counties and districts. Most of our counties and districts are small, and we represent rural. 57 of 58 counties have a rural area within them. And of course, we do all this in California, which is a local control state. So we're always having to balance those factors when we're dealing with any particular issue. And Prop 28 has been very challenging because of that. So next slide, please. So then the other thing I want to share with you is my community, or my landscape, who I'm in conversation with as I'm trying to figure out the best way forward. So we have community, we have an advocacy group of organizations, and then we have ones charged solely with education. So I always like to flash my map there so you can kind of see that in California, everyone is really involved in implementation. Everyone from industry to family to education to there's just all of us have a responsibility. And so that's why I love to talk to people when I get a chance. And it's so gratifying to see so many of you here. Next slide, please. So the other thing that I like to point out is that we have an arts framework, which tells us all about how we can effectively implement arts education. And when we're thinking about Prop 28, I find it useful to bring up this graphic we call the spider, because it sort of lays out for you in a very simple form, what are all the fundamental elements and components that we need to think about. And so if you look at just this graphic, you can see that Prop 28 is going to touch at least half of these components, if not more. And so it's not just about having teachers, but it's also about thinking about materials and equipment, curriculum. Does the schedule allow for expanding access to arts education? Do we have facilities? So all of these things are things that we keep in mind when we're planning for arts education. So those are kind of maps that I use to help guide my thinking and my work and my collaboration, and I wanted to share that with you. Next slide, please. Let's just start with a quick, I know some of you that are here today, and I know you know about Prop 28, but I'm still going to provide just some basic talking points because not everyone is in the same place. So let's remember that the Arts and Music in Schools Funding Guarantee and Accountability Act is a change to the Constitution. It is not a grant for one time. It is not legislation, so it can't easily be changed. And it's not directly subject to yearly education budget negotiations. And so this is a beautiful thing in many ways. We have it in place and it's not going to be negotiated each year. I'm still trying to get a lot of people to embrace that, because a lot of people are kind of like Lucy with the football and Charlie Brown. They think it's going to be taken away in hard times. It's not. The amount will go up and down depending on our budget, but it's not easy to take away this money. So congratulations, voters. Look what you did. It's beautiful. Okay, next slide, please. Then just the real basics, and because if we understand the major sort of outlines, we can also then better understand the challenges. So Prop 28 is meant to supplement. It's not meant to supplant what's already in existence. So this means that if the school was already paying for something, then it needs to continue to pay for that. And this new money should then add to that. You, the public, I know some of you are educators, some of you are parents, some of you are both. We need to keep our eye on what's happening with this. The other element of this is that 80% of this money must go to pay for classified and certificated staff. We know that in our current environment where we have a workforce shortage in all education sectors, this is very challenging. We don't necessarily have these teachers. And so this is one thing that makes an implementation challenge. Also, we have new credentials in theater and dance. And so it's harder to find those teachers because we've just now begun to put new teachers out there from new programs that were established at county offices and different universities. So the other thing we have to always keep in mind too is that there is a way to get a waiver, and that a very small LEA district, that is under 500, does not have to comply with those percentages. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that for each year that we get funding, we have 3 years to spend that year. And so it's important to keep that in mind as we have been off to a slow start. Next slide, please. The other thing I think we all need to remember to be aware of is that there is a definition of what we mean by arts education program in the prop language. So whenever there's a doubt, or whenever someone comes to you and they say, well, we want to pay for flower arranging classes, is that flower arrangement class grounded in dance, media arts, music, theater, or visual arts standards? Then okay, if it is. It's probably not though. Another thing, somebody came to me and said, well, my principal wants to buy a treadmill for dance class. And I was like, as a former dance teacher, I'm not aware of any dance standards that would really use a treadmill. So let's keep that in mind. So just a reminder, we have guardrails in the prop language, and we might sometimes need to educate people about that. Next slide, please. The other thing is we have documents that guide what we should be teaching in school. So we have the California Preschool Learning Foundations for our little ones. We have the California Art Standards, and then we have the Arts Education Framework. And also, next slide, please. We have this wonderful document that the PTA created when we adopted the standards. That is the Parents Guide to Arts Education. And so this is a great resource that can help you talk to people at your schools about what your students are learning in class and be aware of what the standards are. So I think this is a really valuable document, and I encourage everyone to go revisit it if you haven't been there in a while. Next slide, please. So the other thing too is to remember that we do have guidance. There are rules, there are guidelines, there are published funding results. And so we need to be really familiar with the CDE webpage that has all of this. If there is an issue or you have a question, you should be in contact with the CDE email, which is prop28@cde.ca.gov. Any concern or question you have after you've talked to the people in your district, you should then be going to CDE. They want to receive any and all inquiries through that email because they're monitoring it there, and then they send questions off to a team to answer. So it's really important to use that. Also, there is an audit guide that provides some accountability structure for funds and fund use. And unfortunately, a school may do something that they shouldn't have done. We call that a shenanigan. And it may not even be detected until the audit process happens. That's after the thing happens. So again, we're all together needed to help implement, to help be a colleague to our school folks and help all of us help together do the right thing with funds, because not doing the right thing results in having to give the funds back or not getting new funds. So it's important. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. So here's my little cheerleading speech. I know, like I said, we're all in this together. And so I want to talk about a few things that I think are important to keep in mind. Next slide, please. So first, inform, know the law. It's real short to read. You can read it and it's quick, and know the law. Identify who is making the decisions in your district. We know that we have talented leaders that are arts people in school districts. You're going to hear from one of them next. But we also know that in some places, they're having folks in accounting figure out the Prop 28 spending plan without talking to the arts leadership. So it's important for us to help know who those people are and gather around with them and have these great conversations about what we should do with the money. If you're hearing rumors and misinformation, address it immediately. Send them to the CDE webpage. And also, we really need to have a growth mindset approach. This is a new piece of funding. It's been complicated. It's been slow to start. And so we need to have grace, not just for us, but also for our colleagues who are implementing this in the schools. Next slide, please. We also need to connect. So let's continue to connect arts to the bigger picture. Let's continue to think about LCAPs, supporting arts education. Let's think about those expanded learning opportunity programs that are outside of school hours. Let's think about student well-being initiatives. What's better for student well-being than the arts? I can't think of many things. Also, connect with others who are supporting this effort in your local area. Think about who are your partners? Who are the families that are your partners? Who are the educators that are your partners? What organizations are your partners locally? Okay, let's move on. Think about the building part, building the relationships, getting to know the fiscal people who might be making these decisions, getting to know, for educators, I say get to know your families even better than you already do, and also build strategic plans. The money, like I said, is not going away. It's in our Constitution, and our Constitution must be changed in order to take this money away. So if you don't have a strategic plan in place, it's time to build one. And families are important partners when building strategic plans. Next slide, please. Pace. Well, we heard some districts went right out and implemented right away, especially some of the bigger ones that have a lot of arts education leadership already being paid to do this work. And so sometimes there's like this anxiety, well, this giant district is already snapping up all the teachers and already adding all these classes. What are we going to do? We're small. Well, it's okay. Slow and steady can win the race. Also, it's not a race. You're not competing with anyone. Each LEA has its own pot of funds and its own responsibility to implement in a way that's culturally responsive and responsive to community needs. And as I said earlier, there's 3 years to spend each year of funding. So it's all going to be okay. Next slide, please. And the biggest thing is that by informing yourself and others, by connecting to the big picture, by building a foundation through strengthening relationships and strategic planning, and also helping to maintain a reasonable pace, you can help support Prop 28 implementation. You can, I can, all of us can, we'll all do it together. Next slide, please. So again, I want to leave you with this. If you have technical questions about Prop 28, you should be directing those to the Prop 28 inbox or looking at the FAQs. Don't just wing it if you don't know the answer. And so that's where you want to send those questions. Also, you may be in a situation where you have a county arts lead that might be able to be helpful. We have a whole list of those on our website. This QR code takes you there. And so those are my words to you. And I just, again, really appreciate the knowledge and expertise that we have participating in this event, in the chat, and also as panelists. And so we can do it. We can implement. And that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Letty. You are just terrific. I'm the president of her fan club. If anybody else wants to join, she's just a font of knowledge and love your can-do attitude. So thank you so much, Letty. We'd now like to introduce Charles, or as he's known, CJ DeAngelis, who is the Visual and Performing Arts Coordinator for Sac City Unified School District. And he's going to talk to you on a more local level about what he did to make Prop 28 possible in his district. Take it away, CJ.
Great, thank you. Thumbs up if you can hear me, just to make sure that we're working. Okay, awesome. Great. So my name is CJ DeAngelis. I'm the Visual Performing Arts Coordinator for the Sacramento City Unified School District. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about our strategic planning process and how it influenced how Proposition 28 is being managed in our district. Next slide, please. A little bit about me. So I was a classroom teacher for about 20 years. I taught in Massachusetts. And then I moved to LA, taught in Pasadena Unified, Los Angeles Unified, the El Camino Real Charter High School. And then I moved up north and I taught in the Gateway Unified School District in Redding, California. And then I started as an arts administrator here in Sacramento City in 2020, about 3 months before COVID changed my job requirement significantly. So a little bit about our district. So SCUSD has approximately 32,000 students spread over 43 elementary schools, 6 middle schools, 8 K-8 schools, which includes 3 public Waldorf schools, 6 comprehensive high schools, and several smaller specialty high schools, and also 6 dependent charter schools. In 2023-24, we received about $6.5 million in Prop 28 funding, which came at the perfect time to support our 5-year strategic arts plan. I'd like to talk a little bit about our arts plan, as well as how we've been trying to use Prop 28 as closely as possible to the intent of the language of the, well, I'll call it a bill, while trying to tackle all of the barriers that I know a lot of school districts are also experiencing with this funding. Next slide, please. So our strategic planning process. So SCUSD started working on a strategic arts plan in 2019, which is a year before I got here, thanks to a grant from the Sacramento County Office of Education, another service that the county office provides. Having lived in Los Angeles for 15 years, during the original Arts for All movement of the early 2000s, which was essentially right up until the 2008 recession, I was familiar with what arts plans in districts like Burbank and Pasadena look like. I was hired primarily to complete an arts plan for Sac City. My predecessor had conducted an audit of the visual and performing arts programs in the district, and the results were honestly kind of shocking. Out of the 43 elementary schools, only 2 of them had any district-funded music programs, while about 10 others utilized walk-on or non-certificated teachers that were funded through PTA, PTO, or Music Booster, or some other parent organization, which meant that while those schools were closer to being in compliance with the state education codes, there wasn't an organized curriculum or district standards for arts education in place at all in the district. The other 30 elementary schools had literally no arts programs at all. Unfortunately, I had my first meeting with our district arts leads team when the pandemic hit in 2020, which forced us to hit pause on this work. When we returned to in-person learning about a year later, I rebuilt the arts team with the cooperation of SCTA, which is our teachers union. We were able to expand the arts team to 10 teachers representing music, theater, and visual arts. I similarly created a community arts team, which was able to recruit over 30 community members, including parents, students, politicians, former board members, and just about any type of stakeholder that you can think of. We put out an all call on our social media, and we had, you know, a bunch of people respond and show up to our meetings. And then the first thing that we set to do is to review our board policy in the arts. I thought this would be an easy step. Our existing board policy was basically 2 sentences that were they were very supportive of the arts. It was basically like, we like the arts, yay. That was the extent of our board policy. But it didn't give any concrete steps on how to support the arts, which I found troubling. So it ended up taking us 3 months just to agree on revised board policy language, and then another 3 months to get it on the docket and get it approved by the board. But it ended up being a crucial step in our arts planning process. And that's a step that can easily be looked at by parent groups. We then spent the next year writing and rewriting our arts plan. Our district arts team met monthly to write and make revisions, and our community arts team met quarterly to review the work and discuss what the future of SCUSD arts should look like to that group as well. Next slide, please. So our district arts plan is going to be available soon on the district website. I'm doing final edits on the really nice looking version of it, but I'll share with you our mission statement. So this was our mission statement and our priority wedge, and these were the 2 most important parts of the sort of the crux of the arts plan. During the summer after we finished the plan, but before our school board could adopt our plan, there was actually a huge shakeup in the district. Over half of the school board seats changed. Our superintendent resigned, and a lot of the senior leadership was replaced. Days before the school board was to vote on the arts plan, actually one of the new members of district leadership actually asked, well, why do we need an arts plan? And that was when I was really happy that we had passed this board policy a year earlier, because the board policy actually mandates that our district always have an arts plan. So that was the answer. The plan was presented to the board, and it was, I believe, unanimously accepted by our school board. And that was, I think, in, I want to say February or March of this past year. So I can't stress enough that this is why it's imperative for districts to have an arts plan. And I can't tell you how many administrators and superintendents have kind of come into their jobs with these visions of a grand arts program, but then leave before anything can be accomplished, because we all know it takes a long time to build programs like this. So a strategic 5-year plan will honestly outlast the general term of most superintendents. So you'll notice in our priority wedge that our primary priority was funding. That was first and foremost in everyone's minds. This caused me a lot of stress because our district historically has underfunded the arts. I mean, for decades. It isn't even just a recent thing. However, towards the very end of this arts planning process, voters passed Prop 28, which Letty informed you about just a few minutes ago, which gave us almost the exact amount of funding that we had estimated that we would need to fund the first 5 years of this plan. We were also able to write into the plan that the funding from Prop 28 would be kind of controlled entirely by the VEPA department, which is essentially me. So the district can't, they can't use it for anything else, but this really kind of keeps it under the guise of me, somebody who knows about the arts, being able to approve and not approve expenditures at the school site. Next slide, please. So here's a snapshot of what Prop 28 looks in our district. You can kind of see prior to Prop 28, my entire departmental budget was less than $1 million for a district of 70 plus schools and 32. Actually, I think that time we were about 42,000 students. About 86% of that was staffing, and the remainder, which ended up being less than $1 per student, was all that was allocated for equipment purchases, materials, residencies, partnerships, anything else. It was essentially less than $1 per student. Prop 28 increased that budget to $7.5 million, with over $5 million allocated for staffing alone, which is a huge game changer for us. With this funding, so far, I've been able to hire over a dozen K-12 educators. We still have several vacancies we're trying to fill, as I'm sure almost everyone is. In addition, you can see we had almost 1.2 million that was able to be spent on non-staffing, so my teachers, many of them for the first time, have budgets for supplies and materials. Next slide. So because I was in charge of this budget, I had to sort of develop the process that not only made sense, financially, but gave schools the ability to choose or dictate how they wanted this money to be spent. The whole spirit of Prop 28 is that it gives power to the schools to decide how they want to best kind of use this money. I imagine a smaller district, this would be a much simpler process. I look at my colleagues that have like 10, 15 schools, and I'm like, man, that must have been such an easy process. And here I am, like if you count all of our charters, over 80 schools. So I had to make sure that the process was site-centric. involved conversations between the principal, staff, the parents, and the students, but was also understandable and not overly complicated in a way that kind of our general budget process is a little bit on the complicated side. Also, in California, if you're unaware, each school is required to have a SIPSA, which I think is a school plan for student achievement, which is basically sort of a record of school priorities, and that the school kind of uses to guide how they spend their money. So I've been advocating for many years, but especially since Prop 28, for every school to have at least one arts-based goal in their SIPSA plan, to help inform their communities how they plan to use this funding. So my job as a district coordinator is to make sure that every school has a Prop 28 budget plan and that they submit all of their budgets to me so that I can submit them to the school board for approval to make sure that our reporting deadlines are being met. Next slide, please. So as an educator for almost 20 years, I have found that most of these items traditionally are funded by PTAs, PTOs, music boosters, parent groups, whatever, you name it. And personally, it is my personal opinion that parent groups should not be paying for these things. These are things that should be paid for by the district or the schools. These are things that are necessary for instruction. These aren't sort of like, like extras that we need for these programs. Like, these are imperative to a lot of our programs. Next slide, please. So one more, there he goes. So when I started working on this budget, what I did is I created a document for site leaders to be able to put money into the following categories, because a lot of site leaders don't know what goes into a music or an art program. And then what I did is I created a budget sheet that kind of like put their money in a preset percentages out of the Prop 28 allocations, which again, this process sort of made more work for me. But then because I insist on improving all of the purchases and hiring all of these teachers to make sure that they're in line with the mandates of Prop 28, but our teachers are able to order supplies through their school site, or we actually have a central VEPA library, which is sort of our main system of direct support now for our music and art teachers. Next slide. So this is a little bit fuzzy, but you can kind of get the gist of it. This was the final site budget planning document that each school was required to fill out. I made it one page so that principals didn't need to have like multiple pages that they were worrying about. And I realize it's the resolution is very small, or is very fuzzy. And I joked that this is because I don't want anyone stealing my ideas. However, if you would like to look at this for your district, just email me and I'll send you a Google Forms copy of it. But what you can see, so essentially what the principals would do is they would put their allotment from the state in that highlighted box on the top, and it would automatically populate in those buckets from the last slide. And then if you looked over to your right, it's the arts plan goal alignment. So it would show you how those things align with items in the arts plan. So it's a built-in like SIPSA master sheet that all you need to really do is pop in your amount. Most of the principals, I'd say 90% of the principals, just kept it as is. And some of the high school principals moved some money around because they wanted to pay more for staffing. Maybe they already had a budget for, transportation costs. So that was sort of what we did. Next slide. However, so once the budget process was completed, our district, like every other district, faced a bunch of barriers. And so these were probably the four main barriers that prevented us from being able to use the 23-24 funding, which was last year's funding, during last year. So teacher shortage, like obviously, like not only is there a teacher shortage, but there's a VEPA teacher shortage on top of that, because for many, many years there weren't jobs. And now all of a sudden, like we as a kind of a mid to large size district now have 30 job openings. So that's been really tough to find qualified personnel. Also the staffing mandates. So we didn't have any non-certificated positions or classified positions that covered under the visual and performing arts. Also, there's very specific budget reporting. So we had to get this approved by our board. And it's, in a larger district like us, there's always a million things that go on our board docket. So those order meetings have been going to like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. So it's tough to get on that docket. So that pushed it a little bit more. And then also this past year, our funds didn't come to us until February, and our district wouldn't really look at anything until February. Next slide. So we're working on fixing these barriers. So here's how we worked as a district. So for teachers and staffing, we started recruiting from within. So we looked at teachers that either had art or music credentials that were teaching in the classroom, or were working on getting some of those teachers' credentials. Been in communication with university and college preparation programs. We try to let people know, because we actually have a lot of parents that volunteer in our classrooms. And some of them, we are able to hire as like art docents, or have been hiring sort of as art docents. But we're working on legitimizing those as jobs within the district. So we call them VEPA assistants or VEPA specialists, and they're non-certificated people that can go in and help teachers that we can use this money for. We did apply for our waiver. Oh, and we also are working on updating our out-of-date job descriptions. And every time I tell someone this, it's amusing. We have a job description called a traveling music teacher, and that's the only itinerant like visual performing arts teacher that we have. That job description hasn't been updated since 1977. So we've been going on it for 50 years with the same job description. So I'm actually working on creating a much broader job description that we can use for music, art, dance, theater, and media arts. We reached out to the community to look at artist residencies. Artist residencies are a big part of our arts program currently, but we don't want them to supplant like existing teachers. So generally speaking, like our first priority is find a teacher. And then if we can't find a teacher, the waiver allows us to use that for residencies, which is an artist that comes into your school and works with the teacher for about an hour a day, mostly, or an hour a week. And then, of course, we're looking at school projects like mural projects. We are the city of murals, so we have a ton of murals in a lot of our schools, and then actually getting more field trips. Next slide, please. So I'll wrap up. I want to check my time. Okay, well, I'm doing okay. So the calls that I get from parents the most, and I do get a lot of calls from parents and emails through our web portal, is what they can do to make sure that their child is receiving the arts education that they were promised when they voted for Prop 28. So here's sort of like my advice for parents. Number one, talk to your school's principal. So every school is required to have a plan for this money, but they are not necessarily required to submit that plan to me. They only need to submit the budget to me. So again, that sheet that I showed you for us, that's our plan for the sites, but other districts might have a different format for their plan. So the principals are really supposed to know that. Second, advocate for your school to include an arts goal in their SIPSA that kind of holds the school accountable for recording how it intends to spend that funding. Third, see if your district has an arts administrator that oversees the programs. My general rule is that if a district has 10,000 students or more, they should probably have an arts administrator. My personal thought is that for every 10,000 students, that district should have another person on their team. So technically, with 32,000 students, I would ideally have a team of 3 people, just in case anyone from our school board is watching this right now and is thinking about how can I best support the arts coordinator in Sac City. But if you're under 10,000 students, like you really want to make sure that somebody at the district level that knows the arts is responsible for at least looking after this funding. Because I think Letty said sometimes it's a budget person and they might not really understand like what this funding is being used for or what it can be used for outside of like the staffing mandate. Let's see, strategic planning. If your district does have a strategic plan, or if they don't have a strategic plan, you should ask the district why they don't have a strategic plan. I think that all school districts should have at least a 5-year arts plan. And I've encountered some districts that say, oh, it's not necessary because there's this overall strategic plan. And that kind of includes the arts because it's one of those topics. And generally, the arts do require kind of specific knowledge and input from the community that honestly, very few administrators really understand that. So if you do want to see what this looks like, there are, ours is going to be online very soon, but you can look at districts like Burbank or Pasadena that have very well-known, like they're in the 3rd year of their arts planning process. And those programs have been built very well because of those arts plans. Final slide. So again, I'm CJ. If you do have any questions, you can email me. That's the best way to get a hold of me. That is my office number. And then if you do want to if you want to meet with me, like set up a Zoom or something, so you can scan that QR, it'll just take you to a Google form. And then I'll check that this week in case anybody wants to get a hold of me. So that's it for me. Thank you to everyone for giving me this time. And I see many of my colleagues are here as well. So thank all of you, for giving me this time to talk about how we've been able to manage and navigate this brand new kind of world of arts funding for us.
Thank you, CJ. That was just terrific. It was very helpful to get into the weeds of how to move this forward. So really appreciate. I like to think of your spreadsheets as a spreadsheet on steroids with all those details and formulas. It's quite a magic tool. So thank you. Now we'd like to talk and hear from some local folks who created great partnerships with arts organizations and schools. So we have Mary Tess Mayall, who is the Executive Director of Blue Line Arts in Roseville. We have April Rennie, who is the principal of Sheridan Elementary up in Placer County. And we also have Holly Cuthbertson, who is a parent in the Roseville City School District. So this provides a nice contrast from the Sac City Unified larger district to smaller districts and partnerships with arts organizations. Take it away, ladies.
Hi, yes. And my name is April, and I do apologize for not having my camera turned on. We're currently having major network issues, and every time I turn my camera off, I get logged off of the webinar. So I do apologize for that. But hi, my name is April. If you want to go ahead, Alice or Denise, and go to the next slide. There I am. I'm April Rennie. I'm actually principal out here at Sheridan Elementary. We are in one of the smaller districts with 14 schools and about 8,000 students. At my school site, I'm really tiny, itty bitty out here. We've got 65 students. And so it sounds like a dream, but I mean, with that, we do have, lots of things happening out here at Sheridan. And so we do have a lot of fun out here, but out of the 65 students, a lot are have siblings. And so we have probably about 45 families, and about 50 to 75% of them are socioeconomically disadvantaged. And so we have a lot of challenges that we are trying to support our students with. And we've seen that art really does help with our school community. I'm going to go ahead and next slide, please. And so my first year being a principal here at Sheridan was 3 years ago, and I received an email about this fantastic opportunity for a free field trip, buses included. And I said, this is way too good to be true. There's no way that people are out there putting on free field trips, paying for everything. And so what I did was I went ahead and I Google searched Blue Line Arts and saw that it was a legit art gallery with a full program. I went ahead and I made a phone call to make sure that I truly did understand that this was going to be free, because like I had mentioned, most of my families cannot afford to pay for field trips. And so I'm always trying to make sure that whatever we offer to our students, all of our students will be able to attend. And so after talking with Mary Tess and Andy at Blue Line Arts, we were able to go ahead, and yes, it was a fully funded opportunity for my students. I brought it to my teachers, and my teachers were like, oh my goodness, yes, our students need this experience. And oh my goodness, it was absolutely an amazing, amazing field trip. Our students not only came back excited, but they came back inspired. They were sharing everything that happened there with me. And my little first graders are like, Mrs. Rennie, when you're walking in a gallery, you have to put your hands behind your back, and you sit there and you look at the piece of art and you nod your head and you say, that's interesting. And then you walk on to the next piece of art. So to this day, my students still talk about using the gallery walk. We recently had our book fair, and when the kids went to go preview it, we were like, okay, you can't be touching the stuff though right now. And the kids were like, oh, we have to do a gallery walk. So they keep those experiences with them. And like I said, the students who went to Blue Line Arts 2 years ago now, they still talk about that experience, because not only did they get exposed to something that they normally wouldn't be exposed to, but they got to create. As you can see, they got to go to an actual art studio and create pieces of art. And Blue Line just did an amazing job with differentiating the K-1 project versus the 4th and 5th grade project. The kids came back excited to share the processes that they were using. And so it was such an enriching opportunity for them. And like I said, they still talk about it to this day. The pieces of work that they took home, they were great conversation pieces, and parents were coming back going, oh my goodness, my child was so excited to show what they had done. And so that right there, I just was hands down just absolutely impressed with what Blue Line did for my families. And so what I did was I called to thank them for giving our kids something that they would not have been able to have had. And if you want to go to the next slide, it just so happens that at our school site, we needed a new mural. And I happened to ask Mary Tess and Andy, do you know any muralists? Because the art world is not my realm. I do not know how to find a muralist. And so I thought, since they're connected in the art community, why not use their expertise? And this actually started a great collaboration and a great partnership. And so they actually were just like, can we get back to you in a couple of minutes? And I was like, sure. And so they called me like 15 minutes later saying, hey, we want to partner up with you to make this happen for your school. And oh my goodness, it was an amazing, amazing opportunity for not just our school, but for us to go through the process. So last year, it was a full year process. Blue Line Arts helped to find the most amazing muralist. During that year, we were able to share our thoughts and ideas about who we were as a school and as a community. Sheridan Elementary is the one standing building really in the whole little city. We've got one other little building, but the school is the hub of the community. And so we wanted input from parents, from community, from students about what this mural should represent, who we are. And so I would take designs to our parent teacher club, our PTC. I took the designs to our staff, the classes, so that way the students can give input. And every time we gave input to it, we would give it back to the muralist, and then she would come up with the changes and working with us. And so it truly was that collaborative a project. And so the students, as you can see, once we finally finalized what the mural was going to be, every single student and every single staff member got to help paint it. And if you want to go to the next slide, we also had a family art night where the families, the parents, the brothers, the sisters, the former students who attended here at Sheridan Elementary could come and help paint this mural. And you can see everybody is smiling. When you are painting, when you are doing that art, and it is coming just from, your heart, and you're just, there is just such a joy that comes with the art and being with others. And so if you want to go ahead and scroll to the next slide, this was our final project. And to this day, we just had our back to school night, like a month and a half ago. And when kids were walking by, they were saying to their parents, we did that. Remember, we did that. And so they still remember that experience. Once again, art just makes that connection in the brain and with the heart, with everything that we do. And the families are so proud when they walk by. And the new families were like, wow, that is absolutely beautiful. And the families that got to participate, they were like, yes, we were a part of that. So it just makes that connection and with our community. That was last year. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. And so we continue our partnership with Blue Line Arts and working with them over the summer of how do we get art to our students, because we kind of are out of we're off in the distance, so to speak. We're kind of out on the outskirts of town. We're just on the outside of Lincoln. And so one of the barriers was that, yes, Blue Line Arts did have an after school, they do have art programs there at Blue Line Arts in Roseville, but my families don't have cars. And so how can we get arts to our students when we've got barriers like that? And so working with Blue Line Arts, we actually are piloting this year an after school art club. Once again, Blue Line Arts found an actual art credential teacher who comes out right now once a week to do an art club after school. And the kids are excited to come to art. They, once again, are making that connection, not just with school, but with each other. And one of the biggest things that I know with my students, with having all of these exposures to art over the past, 2 years, is I'm noticing it come up more and more, and with what the students are doing. So my student leadership kids were talking about making posters about the rules of the school and how to behave in certain areas, in the cafeteria. And one of the kids was like, we need to put pictures. They want pictures with everything. And I noticed that the connection that art has with our students, because it does use that different part of the brain, that when a student is struggling maybe to put something in words, sometimes if you give them a paper and a pencil and you say, can you draw me a picture about how you're feeling? Or can you draw me a picture about how you're solving that math problem? They can do it. And so art also has given my students another way to express themselves and to communicate. Can we go ahead and go to the next slide? So with my Prop 28 funds, as it was mentioned earlier, the school districts were given funding. We are a smaller district, and so for my district, we were given about $1 million for our 14 schools. My site specifically, and I do not know, I believe that my district did it per pupil, I believe, and my site received about $8,700 dollars. And so trying to figure out how do we make that money work for our school site. And so once again, there is a teacher shortage. And so we went ahead and got a little creative, and we made the position classified or certificated, if we couldn't find a certificated person, but that we have what's called an art technician. And so it actually it does have a job description. And so I know that it was mentioned earlier about art docents. This is not an art docent. It actually is a paid with a job description that goes along with it. And so it is not a volunteer thing. It is a person that is hired in this position to make sure that they're working with the teachers to support the students with art. So maybe thinking of what type of themes or units the classes are working on, and then how do we tie that in with the art standards to reinforce some of the concepts and ideas that they are learning in the class. And so right here, we have our art technician in that first picture, helping out the students. But once again, the exposure to art more often, I see my students using it more in their lives. And I'm going to go ahead, next slide. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm going to go ahead and let Mary Tess come on in. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time, Mary Tess.
It was amazing, April. We really enjoyed working with April, still continue to, as well as Gabby Mural Project. If we can go over to the next slide. Okay, so while, definitely prioritizing designated arts teachers for each campus with Prop 28 funds is a huge priority. I do just want to take the opportunity to share a couple of ways how a community organization like nonprofits can really provide some assistance with art education goals that schools may have, and how we could support Prop 28 implementation and try and fill in any gaps that you may have. So thank you all so much for having me, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share a perspective as a nonprofit. So if you aren't familiar with Blue Line Arts, we are an art gallery and art education center in downtown Roseville. We have a long history of serving the region through art education programming. And I've been with the organization for 8 years now, and it's been wonderful to see the growth of our programming and especially our Tour Talk and Create field trip program. Next slide. So our mission is to create a hub for fostering impactful arts experiences, and we really do that through our educational programming, public art initiatives, and then exhibitions which we rotate every 6 weeks in the gallery. So the photo here is kind of like an example of our typical reception where we really have everyone from the community come in because we are all about fostering a full creative life for all. Next slide. So some benefits of working with a nonprofit, you know, with Blue Line Arts, we have a very small team and it can be a challenge to be able to run everything that we do and assist schools. But I just hope that everyone understands, like, please don't discount what a nonprofit can do to assist you with your goals. Especially with Blue Line Arts, we love to hear what the needs are in the community. Like with Sheridan Elementary, we were thrilled to have their whole school come in for a field trip. And then when April reached out to us about needing a mural, we were able to turn around and put that mural into a donation campaign. We had a funder come in and fund through our Lottery for the Arts fundraiser, their mural, and then the rest of it came through a Giving Tuesday campaign from our other donors. So the people who support our organization want to continue to support arts in schools. So we are really grateful to be able to be, you know, kind of that glue and that microphone for schools. Some of the programming services that we offer, the Tour Talk and Create field trip program, youth mural projects. We also do a first Saturday activity day for families. We also offer scholarships and then after school programs. But I really encourage you, if you haven't already reached out to a local nonprofit, just to see what they offer, because field trips, like April Rennie had shared, can be such an inspiring experience for the students. And then even when the parents may be chaperoned in that experience, they can see firsthand how transformative it can be for student well-being. Next. So this is actually a photo of another Sheridan class that we had come in for a Tour Talk and Create field trip program. And while we usually have our teaching artists lead through a 45-minute tour and then a 45-minute creative project, when they came in, we also had a artist in residence program happening at the same time. So the whole class got to come in and watch Jennifer Rugg, a local artist, create natural pigment paints right in front of their eyes and see the different projects that she was working on. They were able to ask her firsthand different questions about, you know, her career, her goals, and it was just a really inspiring experience. So while you know, classes come in for the field trip programs, it also supports local artists at community organizations like Blue Line Arts, become even closer to the students and inspire them. And we do professional development opportunities for teaching artists, and we also offer internship and volunteer opportunities to help build up the local workforce for the arts. Next slide. So some successes that we have had have really been communicating directly with K through 12 teachers. April Rennie was amazing. She was a principal that we had contacted, and she immediately got back to us with the opportunity. But a lot of times we have more engagement directly with the teachers, and they're the ones who are scheduling the Tour Talk and Create field trips with us. We have been offering after school classes and also creating service provider partnerships with local schools such as charters. And that has been a great way for us to continue to provide more opportunities for students, both coming into Blue Line Arts, but Blue Line Arts is also working to support art education opportunities on the school campus. So while Prop 28 funds can be a good resource for funding these opportunities, we've also had some success with the After School Safety Education Program, ACES, and also Extended Learning Opportunities Program, ELOP. But a lot of times nonprofits can also assist with grant writing opportunities as well. And some of the youth mural projects that we have done before, Sheridan Elementary, Antelope High School, Rockland Elementary, City of Roseville, and Wood Creek. Those were all schools who were able to spend some of their funding with Blue Line Arts to help them reach their goals. Some of the challenges that we have experienced have been trying to find exactly who that point person is at local schools, who that arts advocate or VAPA coordinator is. A lot of times we are really looking through like the school website or the district website to find that point of contact so that we can share our menu of services and try and figure out how we can assist that school with their goals. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is an example of a local temporary mural that we have done before, but you know, a school partnership collaboration can really be successful when there are very clear goals. And I just want to reiterate how amazing it is when schools already have a strategic arts plan. We're continuing to advocate for that in our area. Like, I'm so jealous of the amazing plan that Sacramento has. And also referencing maybe like the school's LCAP goals, if they don't already have a strategic arts plan, can be another area too. But it is so helpful when there is a point person from the school who contacts the nonprofit, like, hey, here's our goals. How, you know, could we maybe collaborate to make these things happen? So communication is key. And then leveraging different resources, like we have mentioned, Prop 28 funds, ACES, ELOP can also assist with after school art education opportunities if it's difficult to maybe have that during the school day. And then I just really want to underline the importance of partnering with a nonprofit long-term, while, you know, having each class come in for a field trip program here and there is really nice. A lot of times nonprofits like Blue Line Arts really want to help a school in the long term. So either an agreement on a yearly basis or a multi-year can really help us build the relationship and really gauge our positive impact on you and your goals. Okay, and here's my information. We are based in Roseville, California, Northern California, and we are serving Placer County and surrounding areas. And we do still have some free Tour, Talk, and Create options for local designated Title I schools in our area. And we do reimburse the cost for buses too, thanks to grant funding right now. But if you have any questions or yeah, please feel free to reach out to me. And I hope this inspires you to reach out to a local community organization near you.
Thanks so much, Mary Tess. And now we're going to hear from Holly Cuthbertson, who's a parent. So she'll be able to speak to those of us on the call that are parents and her own experience in Roseville's school district. So take it away, Holly. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for having me today. So I'm Holly Cuthbertson. Oh, go ahead.
I'm Holly. I'm just going to mention I have our slides out of order, so I'm going to jump ahead, everyone, and then come back. So bear in mind, you're going to see it get a little dizzy for just a sec.
That's okay. We don't mind. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. Awesome. Thank you. So I'm a parent in Roseville City School District. That's our elementary district here in the city. We've got 12,000 students and 20 schools. It's TK through 8th grade. And I've been a kind of active parent volunteer in the district for 7 years, and kind of somewhat on the arts, but then also in other capacities. Like I served on our parent teacher club board for 5 years. Helped volunteer, led the book fair. My husband and I are both former art students. So we have a heart and a passion for it. If you see that little picture, see the guy with the white hair in the pictures? That's my husband. So he's, going into the classroom, doing things for the teachers, because we sort of built a relationship over the years at our daughter's elementary school, because it's always been a priority for us. And I think it just really contributes to the whole school community when you have parents involved. We did STEAM nights. I also helped participate in updating their art docent program. So we have a volunteer run art docent program that brings monthly art lessons into the classroom. The lessons are done by parents and grandmas and grandpas and aunties and uncles, whoever we can come up with. And I was a head art docent at my daughter's elementary school, and I really enjoyed the program. And I was like, man, we need to update this thing, because I think it had been getting kicked around for 30 years and it just needed a refresh. So I got together with a group of parents and went to the district office, and they said, oh, let's help facilitate that for you, because they knew it was a priority and it needed to get done. It was just a matter of someone saying, hey, this is an issue. How can I be helpful? And I think that's something that I take with me kind of wherever I go. And that's something as a parent that you can do. Let's say you see something and you think it could be better, right? Or you think it could be improved upon. If you advocate for it at the district level or with your principal, and you say you want to be a part of the solution, that is very well received. That has always been my experience, and I've done it multiple times, not just in the arts, but on other issues. So that's something to think about when you're wanting to come in and advocate for the arts. Is just, what can you do? So let's go ahead and move forward another slide. So you want to build relationships at the site level and the district level, whether that's with your teachers, your principal, and then also the district leadership. It's okay to send them an email, your deputy superintendent. They will respond. They want feedback from parents as well. And then also building relationships with other parents. So let's say you have a fall carnival or you have some other activity going on. You're building relationships the second that you volunteer. And it doesn't have to be something that's happening during school hours. I know a lot of people are busy. Most parents don't have time to do stuff in the middle of the day. It can be something that's happening after school when there's an event happening. So you can say, I'm going to volunteer for 30 minutes to work the fall carnival beanbag toss. Those are the types of little things that you can do. And it doesn't go unnoticed by the teachers, by the staff, by the leadership of the school. And that's just a really good way to get yourself in. So you do these repeated things over time. After a couple of years, people notice and they'll listen to you. You can participate in site council, you can participate in the LCAP, you can do all of those things. Site council is like once a month, for a half hour to an hour long. There are small commitments that you can take, and it goes a long way. So volunteer programs, they're really a bridge, right? When you have people coming onto the campus and helping out, when you have parents doing things behind the scenes, it's kind of the most important thing we can do as parents, right? We want to build that relationship between teacher and parent, and teacher and parent and administrator. It's really, really important. And I think showing up for people says a lot about kind of that relationship, right? When you show up for other people when they're doing things, it comes back to you in return. That's been my experience. But if you see here on the left-hand side, that's the Tour, Talk, and Create program that Blue Line Arts has. In a couple of years ago, the teachers came to me and saying, I want to do this PTC. And I said, oh, we don't have the money because, well, we're not a Title I school, so we didn't get to get the program for free. So I reached out to our Roseville City School District Foundation, which is a nonprofit that does grants for teachers. And I said, can I help the teachers write some grants so that we can send our kindergartners to the Tour, Talk, and Create program? And we did, and it worked, and they went, and it was fantastic. I got to be a chaperone, and with all 75 kindergartners, they didn't all go at once. But it was really fantastic because, a lot of these kids, I mean, 30% of the kids at my daughter's elementary school are socioeconomically challenged. So, this is not something that they would necessarily get to do in their regular life, be able to go to an art gallery, which is absolutely an outstanding art gallery, like world-class art gallery. It's just fantastic. So great experience. That's on the right-hand side, that's me volunteering, doing a art docent lesson. So you can see so we had our program updated and then we made everything digital. So all the slides and the material for the lessons, all tied to state standards and all digital, which was super nice. Significant upgrade over what we had before, which were posters everybody was trying to drag around. And it was just too much work. Okay, you can advance the slide. So outcomes of parent engagement, right? You get to have your voice shared, and you're seen as a leader when you get onto campus and you do things that are helpful. And the teachers appreciate it, the other parents appreciate it, because it's really about like building community and opening up those opportunities for other families to see things, particularly with the arts, that it's a more robust part of education and that it's helpful for our students. Increased focus, all the things you talked about earlier. And I think it's important also just to mention, I think CJ said this earlier, not all parent-teacher clubs, not all PTOs, PTAs can afford to buy the things that they need for, for the classroom. And, those are the types of things that I look at where I'm like, okay, as a parent, I can see on one side of town, everything is taken care of. On the other side of town, it's not taken care of because the parent teacher clubs can't fundraise to the level that the other neighborhoods can. And so I think it's really important. I was really excited when Prop 28 passed because I'm like, okay, more arts, and it's not going to come from PTC. I think it's immensely helpful to have the program. In our district, it has what it looks like for us with Prop 28 funds is dance teachers in the elementary schools and also some intermediate classes in like the VAPA world for the middle schools. So it's a great addition to what the school district was already doing. And yeah, jump in, get involved. They need you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Holly, Mary Tess, and April. We really appreciate the time you spent today and just how working with local arts organizations can help boost arts integration into the schools. And so for folks on the call to look for some of those partners like Blue Line and be inspired by Holly's energy and creativity and getting involved. Now I'd like to introduce Adelaide Kuhn, who is the program director at Create California. Take it away, Adelaide.
Thanks, Allison. Hi, everybody. So great to be with you here this afternoon. Like Allison said, my name is Adelaide Kuhn, and I'm program director at Create California. And Create California's advocates for high quality arts education for all students by providing policy expertise and mobilizing a statewide network of advocates and allied partners. And you can see at the bottom of this slide some of the work we do in that space. Next slide, please, Denise. Great. So at Create California, we believe that if we want to get through the tough problems that face us today, it will require imaginative leaders who can dream and create a new reality. And arts education is essential to getting us there. So I am here on this call after all of these wonderful speakers. I'm honored to be in your company, but I'm here to present a call to action for parents and a call to action for school leaders to make sure you have the tools and resources you need to support arts education in your local schools. And much of what I'm going to say and I'm going to share has already been said. So I'm repeating, I'm trying to like tie this into a nice bow for you and make it very clear what you should do when you close this webinar, when you close Zoom. Go off into the world and what your next steps are. That's my hope. So we're going to start with the call to action for parents. So Denise, if you could switch slides. Perfect. So first, just so we're clear, what is your role as a parent in this conversation? Parent advocates are absolutely essential in the success of Prop 28. So First, it is your role to connect with school leaders, to ask what their plans are for Prop 28 as discussed, to share your thoughts about this, how this money should be spent, and to offer your support. So be a helper, be a thought partner, just like Holly said, be there to be a part of the solution. Next slide. And here are some resources to help you do that. I'm going to drop them in the chat right now. All of this information will also be sent out afterwards, but I just want to make sure you have it. So the CDE website, which I think Letty shared, that's a great place to get informed. It's really helpful to know, to have the basics of Prop 28 down before you engage in conversations with your school leaders. This Tools for Advocates link has all kinds of resources that parents can use. There's a short video, there's a slide deck, there's social media posts, one-pagers in English and Spanish. A great place for you to take resources and share information about Prop 28 with your school community. The Know Your Rights page just outlines what students' rights are in the state of California. And then this teacher pipeline information is actually a resource from the California County Superintendents, where Letty is, and it talks about the current situation, the teacher pipeline information, and various ways to bring teachers into the classroom and how that connects to the Prop 28 funding. Okay, next slide. So parents, here is your call to action. First, step one, share the resources from this webinar with your school community. You're going to get this beautiful wrap-up email with links and contact information, and you can forward that on to your network. You can pick and choose resources, go to that Tools for Advocates page, but really share what you learned today with other folks in your community. Step two, talk to your school leaders, ask questions, share your thoughts, and offer support. And that can take many different forms. That can be like a formal meeting with your principal. It could be presenting at a school board meeting. It could be grabbing the principal at drop off or pickup for a couple of minutes and just sharing what you learned or asking some questions. Like Holly said, it could mean you have to, volunteer in an event and see if you could just take a few minutes to connect with somebody. So it's up to you what your capacity is, how you decide to reach out, but it's important to do that. And then finally, step three, stay engaged. Advocacy takes time, and implementing high quality arts education programs takes time. So stick with it. Your advocacy will make a difference. This is not like going to get solved immediately. And so patience is really an important part of this. Great. Okay, so now for the school leaders. So I want you, school leaders, first, I'm going to just make sure you know some of the resources that are out there to help you. So this Prop 28 toolkit includes a number of resources. There's a common questions document. There is a template for collecting community input, an inventory for arts education programming and expenditures, so you know all like where existing, how existing programs are funded. There's a school site expenditure plan template, and there are lots and lots of resources around strategic arts education planning. So that is available to you. Sorry, just want to drop that in the chat. So please take a look at this resource. It's a really good one-stop shop for Prop 28 resources. Next slide, please. Next, there's a series of profiles on the Create California website that highlight various local educational agencies' efforts to develop quality arts education programming for their students. And so these profiles are really intended to support you in generating ideas for expanding access to arts education in your local context with funds generated through Prop 28. And so here is this link again. So you have the QR code, but just wanting to make sure you have links. And then next, thanks, Denise. I know I'm going fast. This is a document that outlines different sources of funding that can be used to support arts education. We know that really successful arts education programs in schools and districts have what's called braided funding. That means they're bringing together funding from multiple sources, and that is a great way to ensure sustainability. So that's a good document to take a look at. So those are lots of resources available to you, school leaders. And now for your call to action. Thanks, Denise. You were right on time. Okay, so step 1, make a plan for Prop 28 funds using the tools shared today, and share it ideally with your school community as well. Step 2, consult with your school community to learn what their priorities are for the new funds. So once you've incorporated their input, share this with your school community. And then step 3, honor the intention of the law to expand student access to arts education in schools. So please take those 3 steps, and if you walk away with that, we've been successful. Before I hand it off, I want to just mention 2 other upcoming events that Create California will be hosting in partnership. The next is another great webinar for parents, New Funds for Arts Education and Access. This is specifically an event for parents where we will actually be sharing another set of case studies that are specific to Prop 28. So 6 examples of schools and districts around the state that are using the new Prop 28 money really effectively. So please join us on October 10th. The registration link is there. And then we also have on October 22nd an Arts Now meetup. These are monthly events that Create California hosts that are open to all advocates. We get parents, teachers, administrators, community members, anybody with an investment in arts education is invited to these events, and we come and we talk about whatever the heck we want to talk about. Like whoever's in the room, we generate the topics together. Like you put in the chat, what do you want to talk about? And I create breakout rooms about that topic, and you go meet with folks, like-minded folks, and talk about whatever it is you need. A great place to share success stories, a great place to come if you're facing challenges and you feel like you're stuck and you need help. It's a really supportive and helpful community, and would really love to see you there. So that's it for me. If you have any questions about the resources I've shared, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'd really love to connect with you. I'm dropping my info in the chat now, and I'll hand it back to you, Denise. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. What an incredible presentation we have experienced today. My name is Denise Morgan, and I am Vice President of Programs for our 3rd District PTA. I have had the honor of working in partnership with Friends of Sacramento Arts to bring together today's webinar. Our 3rd District PTA encompasses 8 counties, and within those 8 counties, we support and oversee 145 units. Those units play on programs, advocacy, and activities to meet the needs of their local communities, which are generally at the school site level. Those 145 units within the 3rd District include a total membership of approximately 10,000 parents, teachers, school leaders, and community supporters. We are enormously grateful to our presenters today who brought us their state, regional, and local expertise and experiences related to Prop 28 arts and music funding. We hope that today's webinar has provided an opportunity for all of you, whether you're a parent, teacher, school leader, or community partner, to see the importance of community collaboration in support of ensuring the intention of Prop 28 arts and music funding. As we've heard today, making a plan sets the wheels in motion. And we believe finding ways to incorporate parent and family engagement in the planning process will help ensure its success. We have recorded today's presentation, which will be posted along with the slides and resources to our 3rd District website. You'll find the contact information for all our presenters within these slides, and we will email all of you with that link once posted. So please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions, comments, ideas, or concerns. We really appreciate all of you joining today. We have 2 minutes, so we have legitimately just a very short amount of time. If anyone does have any questions, you could certainly raise your hand or add it to the chat, but we are going to be saving this chat and responding out to any that didn't get answered. So final call for anything that's top of mind, anything along those lines. And Allison, I'm going to turn it back to you in case you have any final words as well.
Yes, thank you. So I just really appreciate everybody that's been on the call today. I know we had about 60 people actually attend most of the sessions, so we're so glad that you could be there. As Denise mentioned, it's been an honor to work with PTA. We're going to be hopefully working with PTA in the different regions throughout the state. We will be sending you, besides the resources from today's meeting, a survey so we can find out what you really loved about the webinar, what we can do better, what are things you still need to learn and be a part of. This is not a one-time operation. This is a continuing conversation for us to work together locally and statewide to ensure arts every day for every child in every school. Please follow Friends of Sacramento Arts on our social media channels and share updates that we'll be providing at friendsofsacramentoarts.org. And thank you again for being a part of today. And thank you to all the speakers and the time that you took to put together the slide decks and share your wisdom and your expertise with our audience today. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.